All right, so I think everyone right now in the MMA community is probably focused on the whole Volkanovski situation, and people are probably going to be talking about it for a while. It seems like a ton of the Volkanovski fans are just black pilled to the deepest sense, and I guess I can feel for them because it really didn't feel like it was that long ago that technically Alexander Volkanovski he beat Max Holloway convincingly for the last time, and he was basically considered the pound for pound number one best. Like it was this idea of Alexander Volkanovski is invincible, and the idea of him moving up and challenging Islam Makhachev. I mean, some people thought, oh, he's gonna get crushed. He's too small, and all this stuff. But there was no one out there that was like, oh, he doesn't deserve this. Like people were like, he cleaned out his division. He fought the best of the best. He convincingly dominated them, and now he's moving up. Like that's what you should do, right? He calls himself Alexander the Great, right? He doesn't just stop at one win. He just keeps going until there's nobody left. That's kind of the idea, right? He did that. He's decided to put himself in those shoes, and he worked his way up, and then he fought Islam Makhachev, and it was a close fight. Some people believe he won, some people believe he lost. Either way, he didn't get dominated. He didn't lose any value in the fight, and because of that, he kept his pound for pound status. He was an invincible guy. I mean, to the point where he gave Islam Makhachev his closest fight. I mean, he was like that good. Being how he is. He's a pretty small guy going up against one of the best fighters ever, right? The new Khabib, and Khabib was invincible, and Alexander went out there and showed he wasn't, and he was basically this unbeatable guy. He had so many fans, and he was unbeatable, and he was just such a nice guy. And it wasn't even that long ago. Like honestly, what I might be saying might be like if you go back maybe 8 months, maybe like I'm not that too good, but I'm pretty sure if you go back 8 months, you have unbeatable Volk, and then man, all of a sudden, he gets injured. He does the surgery. He does that whole situation with him on an interview talking about how he was basically drinking nonstop for about 3 weeks on the couch, and he takes that fight, and then obviously the head kick in the first round, and ever since then it's just been downhill, right? He takes that head kick. I don't know how they allow him. Usually when you get knocked out, you have to take 6 months off. He somehow came back in 3 months. I don't know how that was allowed. Dana White's always talking about, oh, the doctors are the ones that decide these things. But are you sure? Because, I mean, he's in there. And then what happens? I mean, he looked good in that fight. I wouldn't say that he looked bad, but at the same time, was it really Ilya's power that knocked him out? Or was there some sort of crack that was created by Islam kicking him, and that just got deepened now, right? There's like a crack in the armor, and then Ilya was able to hit the same sort of spot, and now it could be an issue. Like he'd never really been hurt really in any of his fights. I mean, he'd had some moments here and there, but getting knocked out like that, I mean, it goes to show, like, is it really Ilya that powerful, or was it that Volk wasn't completely healed, or is Volk's chin or just his ability to not be knocked out, is that suspect now? And it really makes you have to think. It's a difficult situation he's in, and people are talking, or at least Volk is putting it out that he wants that rematch, right? That's his best way to cope with what's happening. All he needs to focus on is he deserves a rematch. There really isn't anyone out there that can say that he doesn't deserve that. All the things that he's done, everything, all the fights that he's given, the rematches he's given, the short notices that he sacrificed for. Obviously, there's no one out there that says he doesn't deserve that rematch. He will get it if he really pushes for it. The fans, no one wants to see it, but we know that Volk deserves it, and everyone loves Volk. So if he wants it, everyone is going to be on his side, as they should. But at the end of the day, it's like, is anything going to change? And I kind of talked about this on my last video a little bit, but I really just want to put it out there because this is really what people are thinking about. Like, what would happen in a rematch, essentially. And I know we have to kind of wait a couple of days for all the people to not be so black pilled, right? Because, again, like I said, to go from this unbeatable pound for pound number one to all of a sudden now he's been knocked out in his last two fights. And it's been so quick, I think, because Volk is as he says, he's a very active guy. He takes a lot of fights. He's very much out there. That's probably why he was ranked so high, because he was just always out there. Like um, every 4 or 5 months or something, he was always fighting someone. He was always going. He was racking up all these trophies, and that's why he was so high up on the pound for pound list. But in some ways, by doing that, you kind of are also hastening your own career, right? Because every fight you take takes a little bit out of you, and every time you do it takes a little bit more. So I think that's why people are so confused right now. They're like, wait a second, he was literally like, you go back for sure a year, pound for pound number one, to today, and all of a sudden he's I mean, how many? Technically, he's lost like 3 fights out of his last like four. Oh, Yaria, right? Yeah, that was the guy. For some reason, I couldn't say his name. I just couldn't think of it in the last video. But yeah, and I think his last 4 fights, he's lost 3 of them technically. He lost the first fight with Islam. He lost the second one with Islam, and then he lost this fight against Ilya. So, man, total, and it's happened really, really quick. All that within a year, right? And so I could see why the Volkanovski fans are just in total shock, because they're just like, they don't, casual people, which is most MMA fans, they don't really like, I don't know, they're out of touch or something with that. Like, just because a guy has success with all these other fighters and he looks good doesn't mean he's going to be successful against other fighters. It's a very complicated situation that martial arts is. Unless you have an eye for it, it's going to seem really bizarre. Like if you don't really know what it is, you're just kind of looking at geometry, I feel like. And a lot of guys don't want to admit that's what they're looking at, but a lot of them are admitting that, because a ton of people, look at Drake. Look how much money he just blows all the time, because he has no idea what he's looking at. He's just going with the popular guy or with the guy he likes. But when you look at things objectively, and you are actually like an educated, well, not educated, but like a knowledgeable martial artist, then you can see these things. Like, unfortunately, if Volk gets what he wants and he gets that rematch, which is what he's hell bent on getting, he's most likely going to get KO'd again, because I don't think he wants to wait a really long time in order to fully heal. If that is an issue, we don't know if it is. It could be. He doesn't want to wait a long time, because I'm assuming that Ilya wants to probably fight in the next 4 or 5 months. Maybe he wants to be on UFC 300. Ilya is a very intelligent guy. He basically says, who's successful, I'm just going to copy that guy and get to where he is. And that's what's worked for him. He looked at Conor McGregor and said, I'm going to do everything that he did. So be ambitious, go after people, call out the right people. And he has everything to back it up as well. Grab the belt. He called out Conor McGregor, which is the smartest move he could do. Call out the big money fight, right? If he somehow did get it, then that would change his life. He would go from, he's already pretty popular, but he would go to, national levels, just like all these other guys, like Nate Diaz and, Khabib. No one knew who Khabib was before Conor. Like, he really was a niche MMA fan. Those are the only guys who knew about Khabib Nurmagomedov, because before Conor, he was just the guy who wore the hat thing, really. Like, even when he became champion there, he was still the guy with the hat. And then after the Conor fight, then he became this big international star, right? Same thing with Nate Diaz, because he beat Conor, right? So Ilya, in his mind, he's playing the smart game. He's very ambitious. He's smart, and he has the power to back it up. And can Volk go in there and do something different in the rematch? I mean, the best strategy, like if I could give him a strategy, it would be obviously to grapple more. I would bet money he's the better grappler over Ilya. But is he that much better? I don't think it's going to be a major difference. I don't think he's going to take him down, and then Ilya is just not going to be able to get up, and then he's just going to Dagestani him. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he'll get some takedowns. I think he'll be able to keep him down to a degree, but then Ilya is going to, he's going to be able to get back up. He'll use the cage, and, he'll get takedowns, but he's not going to be able to hold him down for the whole round. That's just not going to happen. And it's still a better strategy than, trying to kickbox him, obviously. I mean, Ilya's striking is definitely on another level than Volk's. He's like, if Volk is let's say Volk is like a 5, his striking, then Ilya is probably like, maybe like an 8.5 or something. especially because he has power, and he has an actual fighting style. Like, what does Volkanovski really have? He kind of has kind of a basic, kind of interesting, kind of kickboxing thing. He'll throw kicks, but he doesn't really have a style to him. Like some of these guys, they definitely have styles. Like Wonder Boy, right? He's the karate guy. He goes in there, he has the stance, he throws the moves. That's who he is. But Volk, what is Volk really doing striking wise? Is he a boxer? Is he kickboxer? Is he a Muay Thai guy? What's his stance look like? I mean, I don't really know. He just kind of has his own little thing, but whatever that is, it's not really, it's not going to beat Ilya's thing for the most part. And unfortunately, we might be seeing the fastest decline of a champion ever. The fastest, going from, and not only the fastest, but the highest fall we've ever seen. To see an athlete go from pound for pound number one to then watching him getting finished constantly. His double champ status gone forever. His own belt now taking away. I mean, if he gets beaten again, then there goes his number one. There goes any chance of ever seeing another belt again. So it's just like the fall went from so high, pound for pound number one, dropped to nothing, possibly to nothing, and it's the fastest decline we've ever seen. So this whole Volkanovski situation is really, really insane, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again. So definitely interesting. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on this whole thing. It sucks because Volkanovski he's definitely one of the coolest guys in MMA. Like he's definitely a guy that if I could meet, that would be really cool. If I could meet him and all that stuff, go to some seminar or something of his, have that guy in my corner if I were to get in the ring, all of that stuff. Like he's one of those guys. He's definitely someone you'd want to keep because he's just he's like a ball of sunshine. That guy. He's so positive and it kind of reminds me of Robin Williams a little bit, right? He's just such a positive, carefree, happy, optimistic guy. And then to know that deep down there's a lot of problems he has, right? He talked about the mental situations and all this stuff. And it really sucks to see someone like that go through so much, not just internally, but now it's affecting him externally, right? Because he admitted he had mental issues, and now he's having like external issues, right? He's losing all these fights. He lost his belt. All this stuff is going on. So it's really sad to see, and I hope all the best for Volk. But if he keeps fighting and he gets this rematch, I mean, I don't see it going anywhere. And best case scenario, maybe he stays number one contender, kind of like Whitaker was like that for a time. Marab was like that. Colby Covington was that guy. I think Usman might be getting turned into that guy where there's this tough, or Max Holloway as well, where they're these like tough fighters that are really tough and no one in the division can beat them, but they just can't beat the champion. So if Volk keeps fighting, I feel like he's going to turn into that guy. And will he be okay being that guy? I think maybe at that point, fight a couple fights, end on a good note, and get out of there. I think that's the best situation for him. But yeah, I definitely don't see him beating Ilya anytime soon. So I'll see you guys on the next one.